Hello and welcome to Security Scan. I'm Vishal Dahiya. Now, this week we're going to talk about the reforms in the defense industry. That is, indigenization of India's defense platforms, weapons platforms as well, and several policy decisions which have been taken to this effect, be it increasing the FDI in defense industry or the other steps as well. And for this, we are joined by three distinguished guests. Let me first introduce these guests to you, beginning with AVM PK Srivastava, somebody who has worked with defense majors and defense industry as well, knows the details, intricacies of how the defense production works in India. We also have with us Mr. Manu Pabi, the senior editor of Economic Times, keeps a track on all the defense-related developments, and Dr. Lakshman Kumar Behera also joins us. He's a research fellow with the IDSA. So let me begin the show, and let me begin with you, Manu. Let's start by trying to, brief our viewers on the decisions which have been taken in the recent past vis-a-vis indigenization of, defense platforms, or the focus on becoming self-reliant.
See, this government, ever since it's come into power, since 2014, it has talked about Make in India. And Make in India, one of the cornerstones for Make in India always in the government's policies has been defense manufacturing. What has been announced is taking it a step further. I think the finance minister took off from what the prime minister said on being Atmanirbhar, self-dependent, and they have announced, in my view, three key policy changes, which will actually add on to what has already been done in terms of the DPP, the defense procurement policy, the defense manufacturing policy. The first thing which I think is very important is that they've announced that there will be separate budget from now on to buy only Indian-made products. And that budget has not been announced. What is the quantum of that? But the very fact that from next year onwards, there will be a part of the capital budget which will be intended and kept only for Indian-made products is interesting. Secondly, they have announced that there will be a policy under which the FDI has to be increased. The third thing that they have done is that they have invoked the policy of having a negative import list. So we will not be able to import certain items. The defense manufacturing policy, which was taken out in 2018, already has such a list. And that list includes very ambitious projects like fighter jets, like helicopters, small arms. And they will be given timelines on how to do it. So these three steps together, I think, are designed to give the Indian industry a boost. And I think we would also should talk in the future about in this panel discussion on the corporatization of OFB, which is something the government has been trying to do for a while. It has met a lot of resistance, but I think finally everyone is on board. And as the finance minister specified, it is not privatization, but corporatization. So making them more effective, making them into units which can be oriented towards exports as well. So I think the whole idea behind these four big things that they have done is to give a boost to the Indian industry to ensure that MSMEs which are struggling will go ahead and sustain themselves, and that over the next 4 to 5 years, we see an increase not just in domestic production, but also in exports of weapon systems.
Okay, and that seems to be quite a big push, a large push there, Dr. Behera. Isn't that all these 4 or 5 things, if you take them or look them in a holistic manner, this gives a very, very big boost to the indigenization of defense production and entire reforms which we talk about for the defense industry have been brought in a major way.
Yeah, definitely. I think this government is quite serious to promote indigenization in defense production. So just to add to what Manu has already said, so there is also one more announcement from the finance minister, that is the provision to streamline the GSQR, the technical specifications which are written by the armed forces. So historically, there has been some complaint that the GSQRs or the technical specifications are very ambitious and these are not very friendly to the local industry. Now the government is coming saying that, okay, these specifications will be designed in a way that the local industry, including the R&D agencies, would be able to manufacture and supply to the armed forces to their requirements. So I think these 4 or 5 announcements that the finance minister made, they're definitely a part of strong package to promote local industry. And this we have to take along with the measures which were announced in the draft DPP 2020. In which the government has clearly laid down a path that, okay, henceforth, we are looking at minimum 50% indigenization. When the government came to power for the first time in 2014, that limit was only 30%, and within 6 years, that limit has been increased by 20%. That means the domestic industry has to indigenize a lot more what they are manufacturing here. So they don't have to depend on foreign sources for the parts and components. Everything has to be manufactured here, including the military materials, which has been a key deficiency in our local production. So maybe we were manufacturing a fighter aircraft, but a lot of parts, components, even raw materials were coming from outside. But now the government is quite serious, asking the industry that to manufacture in India so that the local supply chain is established. And then the government is also quite serious on the startups and MSMEs, because in any industry, the startups and MSMEs, they constitute the real backbone. And for the past several decades, they have been neglected. Now, in the DPP, there is a separate chapter which has been articulated, which has been further streamlined, that gives a tremendous boost to the startups, MSME through a number of schemes. I think if we take all these measures, and if they're implemented in right spirit, I think this will provide a tremendous boost to the local production.
Okay, let me bring in AVM Srivastava here. And AVM Srivastava, you've been there on both sides, having worked with BDL and L&T, both, the PSU as well as the private sector. So all these, reform decisions which have been taken one by one, be it increase in FDI limit or corporatization of OFBs, or a change in GSQR policy as well. How big is that one, and how much promise does all these decisions hold when you want to achieve that final target of indigenization of defense platforms?
Vishal, I really agree with you on one issue, that how do we establish the defense ecosystem, industrial ecosystem in the country? And all the efforts since the time this government came in picture, they have been pushing all those reforms. And what my panelists have already mentioned, I'll just add on a few things. If we see from the point of view of making your RFP before we go through the AON process and RFI, then AON, now I find in this new kind of thing, one concept has come in, which is, I think, is a very potent concept. If it is implemented in spirit and letter, that is nurture competition instead of you going so rigid for your RFP stipulations. This has cost us a lot of single vendor situations, which we all are aware. So this is a very, very key concept which has been brought into this. That means we will nurture competition and we'll get the best price and we'll avoid a lot of controversies which happen thereafter. That is one issue. Okay. Second issue, which is very important from the industry perspective, since I have lived with the Air Force and I have lived in the private and public sector, I know when we come to the PSQRs or GSQRs, as we define, now there we have been, when I was in Air Force, we wanted to have the best. And industry wants to have what they can produce, which is on the other side of the spectrum. You need to find a pointer in between somewhere. We can nudge the industry to go ahead, but if we want a very huge quantum jump in some kind of attribute or parameter, I think it will be very difficult to achieve within the capacity or capability of our own industry. So that had become a bugbear for us to land up always with buy global. Ultimately, we landed up in that situation. So if PSQRs and GSQRs, they become very effective and realistic, and we focus on that issue. I think it's a matter of focusing. Nobody can dictate. Neither side can dictate terms. If we focus, and with the, I would say, with the DMA coming in function, which will act as a kind of arbitrator or kind of conciliator, this issue will become a very, very practical issue, which is a very major thing. One more thing which I found very interesting in the announcements, which have already been told by panelists about FM's announcement. She says, I will change the GFR, General Financial Regulations, that for anything which is up to 200 crores, we will not go global. That's a huge issue. That's a huge issue because most of our, I would say, revenue capital budgets are within that. And a lot of it will go to MSME. And alongside, then she has changed the perspective of MSME, the definition. And this definition, if you merge with that policy, it really brings in the tier 2, tier 3 structure, which if available, then only you can get the indigenous content, which we are talking about, which Dr. Behra and Manu talked about. That you want 50%, how do you increase the 50%? Also, I found something very interesting when I was reading that an audit has been implemented. If you have the audit of your tier 2 vendors, tier 3 vendors, from down from tier 1 for the indigenous content, it is the only potent way to know, are we really having that content within the system or not? Because there are systems which will get cost-wise defined, but when you really go into it, you'll find that you are still very, very dependent on the OEM for all your combat, sustenance part of it.
Okay.
So I have always been mentioning on many forums, but it hasn't taken traction. My one keyword is, when we buy a major system, whether an aircraft, fighter, or transport or anything, we also get a list of manufacturer recommended list of spares, which is used for sustenance. If you want to do something in offset, or you want to do something otherwise, you need to manufacture those sub-modules, sub-modules, which are purchasable by the Indian Air Force or by Indian Army, because that is where you're going to get your power from. If your items by the industry are saleable, then you'll find many, many people will get excited to be part of it. Because at the end of the day, having lived in the industry, I found only one thing which sells. There should be some way of getting the order inflow, and there should be some way of having your return on capital. If you do not have that, any kind of motivational lectures you give, no industry will come forward, because they need to survive to fight the next day.
Definitely.
Other part of it, I think I'll tell you in the next round, that what I feel is a pull factor, in the sense which will pull industry out of this business. There are certain things.
Come to that aspect as well. Also there. Interesting one also, but this point which you made specifically with respect to, the private sector, perhaps, obviously the biggest, pull for them would be sort of a repeat order or something which, gives them a return on their investment. That's one aspect. But the larger scheme of thing here is that the entire defense ecosystem has to be made self-sustainable. And Manu, from that perspective, how much of target would be achieved by implementing these particular decisions which have been taken in the past few weeks?
See, the government has always said this, and I would agree with their assessment that for the Indian defense ecosystem to be sustainable, you can't depend on only one customer. In India, there's only one customer, which is the government of India. To be sustainable, you have to export. And we have a target of achieving $5 billion worth of export every year in 2025 from now on. So in terms of the capacity of the industry versus the demand within, I think there's a problem there. We can create the capacity anytime, but the demand is varying. And long-term planning cannot be done. For example, we have two very interesting projects going on, which we can talk about. One is the K9 Vajra. So it's an artillery system being made here, and we ordered about 110 of them. It's a great gun. We're making it here. It's been made by an Indian company. But beyond a point, that program can't be sustained because the Indian demand remains at 100. Maybe it'll go up to 200. But to really ensure that ecosystem stays in India for the longer term, you have to look at exports. You have to look at exporting it to the Gulf states, to the Western countries, to Southeast Asia maybe. And no matter how much we build up the ecosystem, unless the export thing comes into place, it will not work. Secondly, we need to leverage our offsets better. And Dr. Behra is an expert on offsets. He can elaborate on that a bit more. But these new things that we have done on FDI, easing of FDI, we're inviting foreign companies to come to India to, make things. We need to change the FDI, the norms of offsets. We have a captive investment available for us now. Now, in the next 2 years, if we can just leverage that into, giving these foreign companies concessions in terms of multipliers, we can, for example, ask a global company to set up a fighter jet manufacturing engine, a fighter jet manufacturing facility in India. You can ask somebody to set up a transport aircraft facility. You can do smaller things. These are the higher end of it. But the challenge is now that investment in the coming post-COVID world is going to be limited. And so will the demand will shrink. So you have to do with available resources. So tap these offsets, make them more viable, ensure that FDI norms and changes in offsets are married to each other. So you see a lot of these companies shifting work to India, and not just because it is, there are some incentives, but once they are established here, give them the long-term perspective for them to cut costs This person I know who works in the aviation industry in Europe tells me that if the Indian market is seen and the potential of it, even if it is discarded for a moment, if we invest money here, we can cut costs by 10%. If you have a long-term plan in India. So India can offer something beyond just its domestic market also. But that will require a lot of time. I think Dr. Behera will be able to elaborate on the offsets.
Okay, definitely. I'd like to bring in Dr. Behera here, as what Manu is pointing out and what AVM Srivastava started with, only the negative list might not work. We'll have to push on the exports as well, leverage the offsets also.
Yes, definitely. I think no major manufacturer can sustain without selling in the international market, and that we have seen plentifully in other countries. Israel, for instance, gets 70% of its revenue from exports. France gets almost 30 to 35%, and ours is very abysmal. And thanks to the Make in India effort, Make in India initiative, so our export has increased quite a bit. So I think I have some figures. In 2016-17, our export was nearly 1,500 crores. Now it is almost 9,000 crores. And as Manu rightly said, the government has set a very ambitious target of $5 billion in the next 5 years. So I totally agree that the export needs to be promoted. And I think we have all the policy measures on the table which the industry can use and export outside. But to export something outside, you need to have your own indigenous product. So unless like Bajra, for example, we can't export because it's a product which we are manufacturing tie-up with a South Korean company. Unless South Korean company agrees, we can't export. So that's why we need our own products like LCA or Arjun. If these products are accepted by our users, our armed forces, then there is a greater chance we can export outside. So I think this offset policy, which we are implementing since 2005, is a very good policy instrument to promote exports. For the last several years, this policy was not utilized in right spirit. So we gave complete freedom to the foreign companies to buy some ordinary stuffs here and there, and they were happy and we were happy. But now, thankfully, the ministry has realized the weaknesses of the system, the offset policy. Now, the new draft policy is a complete makeover. So now the new offset policy gives primary focus to exports of major platform, not parts and components, and also it gives a focus or importance to investment. So now this investment policy through the offset has to marry with the new FDI norms. Now earlier it was 49%, now it is 74%. So that means any foreign company which wants to set up some subsidiary here through offset should be allowed this this hike in FDI, that is 74%, so that they can manufacture here with a tie-up with a local company and export from here. But the key to success of offset policy or any export policy is the technology. Now the revised offset policy also gives importance to technology transfer. So the multiplier has been modified in a manner that gives a lot of incentive to the foreign companies to transfer key technologies to local industry. Local industry means the private sector, PSUs, ordnance factories, and the DRDO. So that technology transfer needs to be taken very seriously by the government, and we should focus that more and more offsets actually bring technologies apart from the investment. Investment, of course, has been given some major multipliers. So I think taken together, the new policies which the government has announced in recent years looks quite good. But the only thing is that how they are implemented. So we have to see that that is where actually the key lies.
Okay. AVM Srivastava, the draft DPP 2020, which we're talking about, the spirit of that seems to be taking forward what has been announced so far. But again, it's all about implementing it in a holistic manner, looking at all aspects, the import list, the export list, the leverage of offsets as well, and obviously capacity build-up.
I thought Dr. Behera will talk about the offset banking, which has been withdrawn. I think it's a little bit of a setback to the industry, because that was one thing which was very favorable to the industry, and the OEMs were very interested in doing this. But anyway, coming to this, what Dr. Behera said, that if we look, or Manu also said, if we look at the exports of major weapon systems which are indigenous, we have to factor in that. There are two ways we must tread. One is that buy and manufacture in India and permit exports outside. That is one part of it, which was brought out by Manu very aptly. And second is that major platforms, we have major platforms which we have inducted in our armed forces. Unless they're inducted in our armed forces, nobody is going to buy, because the first question the buyer asks, have you got it in your own armed forces or not? So we have LCA now, Tejas, and there are various versions are coming up. That's very good. We also have Akash weapon system, which is a proven thing. We can sell that. And when I was there in BTL, we got several queries that time. And there are queries about it. People are curious, and it's a cheaper version. And third is Arjun tank. So we can start up with those 3-4 major systems, whatever we think is good. And we must focus on AMCA development on a faster track. Because AMCA has a great promise. If it comes and becomes part of the Indian Air Force as the first step, its export will not be a great, I would think, hindrance in the backdrop of LCA being exported to those countries. So what government has to do now to encourage, which part I would say is a little, the two parts I think are amiss. One is this part, that export, how are we going to conduct our exports, and what kind of facilitation we are going to give either public sector or private sector. When I say private sector, I also mean C295, which is with TSL coming into play. Can it be done outside and more and more? So unless we have numbers in these major systems, actually you make your money only when you export. So that has to come. Everybody knows about it. The one thing which I find, apart from this, very interesting in our 2020 is Sumoto proposal. I have, as an individual, if I have something fantastic about the technology, which goes into the domain of, let's say, machine learning, goes into the domain of virtual reality, artificial intelligence, and I form a small little team, I can give a Sumoto proposal to the government of India, to MOD, which was not there, which is a very, very important development. It was there, Dr. Bera will bear with me, with DARPA. I can go to them, say, this is what I have. And the coming of the trial wings, specialized wings to do the field trials. That's again a very beautiful thing, because we can expedite the trials. We can have them in a very more modulated, more controlled fashion. So these are some nuggets which are there. These are the cherries of the whole thing, which will make this look very, very, very good.
And this also seems to give a push to the innovation aspect as well.
Yes, that's very important. And I'm very little concerned about the Make 3 or the contribution of this thing coming down to 70%. In Make 1, it was up to 90% earlier. Now it has come down to 70%. This is some kind of review if it can be done. But yes, this will cause some drag on the system. Maybe it can be managed. But other thing, this is one DPP which has come out in full force to push Make in India, and whatever was left over is trying to do that. One more clause is worth mentioning, which must go to the audience, that there is a price variation possible during the deliverance of the projects which are very high cost, 1,000 crores and more than 60 months. This is a huge, huge criteria. It's a very big thing. I have suffered on that count, because we have given order to somebody. He's not able to deliver even for a smaller thing in that price. And to change his price is a nightmare.
The entire process had to be done again.
It is a nightmarish issue even for a company. And in that sense, if you say the OFB is going to have a company board, it is going to be corporatized. It's one of those wonderful things which we are always expecting, because as a customer of OFB, I could never get the price of any item from them. So I cannot do my own planning. So this is something which will bring cheer to a lot of people. Now, if you interact with the OFB or their factories in many ways, all of us who are in different segments. If they become corporatized, then the price will come, then they will work like under Companies Act, and everything will get into shape.
Definitely. These are some very important aspects, and the way it has been done and designed in the approach as well. Let's have some final concluding comments from Manu before we close the show. Manu?
See, I think, the government has done its bit. There's a bit of debate if it could have done more. I think a lot of companies are concerned on budget cuts, and that will really affect, how things will go ahead. So if you have a 20% cut in capital budget, whatever you're talking about right now will not take off, because there are no orders, everything fails. But I think the government has done its bit. It's time now for, I think, the private sector especially to step up and provide innovative solutions. And what kind of solutions are needed? We know there's a cash crunch right now in the government. So they have to find better ways of funding a project. Should not demand so much upfront fees. You can have staggered payments. So that innovation now, I think the private sector needs to really step up and find ways to do it. So do foreign companies. There have to be partnership proposals from abroad. Why not the French or the Americans or the Russians or the Israelis? Find a way in which you can build something together which does not involve, again, upfront costs, because India can pay money, and if the world can pay money, it will just take some more 2-3 years more to do it. And I think once we go through that, we can look at a brighter future. It's a great opportunity. The government has done, I think, whatever it could have in these circumstances. Way ahead will have to be seen.
Definitely. Thank you so much. There are Manu, Dr. Behera, and AVM Srivastava as well. Clearly, as our panelists are pointing out, some steps have been taken, some decisions have been made, and this is seemingly on the right track to try and achieve the ultimate target of complete indigenization of defense platforms. Be it the increase in FDI or corporatization of OFB, the message here seems to be clear. While the PSUs will have to pull up their socks, the private sector will also have to put their best foot forward and march shoulder to shoulder with the PSUs as well to try and find solutions. It has to be a concerted approach. We'll come back again next week with a different topic. Till then, you keep watching Rajya Sabha television, keep yourself safe, and follow all the guidelines with respect to the fight against COVID-19, specifically the social distancing norms. Thank you.